Hello, everyone. As Hadar mentioned, Professor Z, we're going to do a lot of activities to integrate what you're going to learn today. And so to make it easy and efficient for us, I'm going to ask if we could have everyone please stand in the hallway with your groups. So your groups of 4 or 5?
Yeah.
Okay. And take your things with you because we're going to be reseating. Okay. We would like to have 2 groups in this first row. 2 groups in this first row, please. Okay, 2 groups in this first row. We need 1 more group for this first row, please.
Oh, okay.
Group
on one side.
Yeah. Group on one side, another group on the other side.
Going down to
Yeah, down. Okay.
We can do this, guys.
Yeah, you can do this. Are you one group?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So let's have another group in here. So yeah.
Where are we going? We going there?
Second row. Second row. Okay. Who's our next group? Okay, your group on this row, please.
Up here.
Your teammates. If you want to come closer, you as a group can, but we're going to be up and down regardless. So shall we go ahead and start? That's my magic wand, my security blanket. Okay, you ready to project?
I'll just make it presentation.
It's nice to be back to UC Irvine. I actually graduated with my master's degree in environmental engineering here in 1990 something. Let's just say your campus looks a lot different to me today. But for the last 15 years, I'm going to be sharing with you the best of what I've been doing and learning all over the world. So the title of what we're going to learn today is called Collaborative Communications, which is a very, very broad subject. And what we're going to give you in the course of 1 hour is hopefully a small taste of some of the skills that my colleagues and I in my company, Working Harmony, use to develop collaborative teams, collaborative leaders across all kinds of industries. So we hope you'll find this immediately applicable to your work in teams and certainly to your capstone experience. So your takeaways today, what I want you to get from this, is basically 1 skill and 1 tool. The skill is what we call the power of observation. It's a mindfulness of communication technique that will help increase people agreeing with you. Does anyone not want people to agree with you? So this will hopefully help you be less controversial and hopefully get more buy-in, more agreement, more support from people you work with. It'll also make it easier for you to deliver difficult messages, such as performance feedback. Let's say someone on your team isn't performing. It'll give you a way to talk about it in a way that would be more constructive. Oops. And the tool is for continuous improvement. This is a simple tool that we're going to use a prop for, but you'll also be able to use it outside of this classroom on how to improve almost anything, whether it's your team, your project, an organization. It's something that was very, what's the word? It was one of the more highly rated workshops at the Agile Open that Hadar and Professor Ziva and I attended.
Yeah.
As it applied to retrospectives in the Agile community. So I'm excited to share with you this tool and hopefully you'll go out and use it. So at that, I want to establish some relevance to you. Can I hear from a few people, why is it important to have the capacity, the ability to collaborate, the ability to communicate effectively in your world? In your world. Can I hear from a couple people? Okay, 1 and then 2.
A lot of what I've been doing recently has been multidisciplinary work regarding research, within research context. And the collaboration, being able to collaborate with different people with different thought processes and ways of looking at things has really helped because like I'll be working with people in mechanical engineering, and we're working on a project to help people that are going through rehabilitation with stroke. And it's really helpful to be able to pull stuff from people in the social sciences that are also working with us on the project that we never would have thought of based off of the work that we've been doing from the mechanical engineering standpoint. And so pulling in the different thought processes has really been able to help expand and get around buffers that we've run into.
I love it. So what I'm hearing is, especially for interdisciplinary work, where you have to share different thought processes from people from other disciplines, this is especially useful for your research. Is anyone else here involved in interdisciplinary research or interdisciplinary work? Okay, a couple of hands. Great. And can we hear from our other gentleman?
Being in the field of informatics, it's always evolving. So being able to communicate different ideas with everyone, getting people to be on the same page, it helps us a lot in developing our products or being able to push the envelope in the field.
Absolutely. I mean, what use is a good idea if you can't communicate it or get people to really understand it and support it? Have you ever known anyone in your life, or maybe this is you, who's really brilliant but has a difficult time expressing their thoughts or ideas? Anyone know someone like that? I mean, you kind of feel bad for them. It's like you want their genius to get out in the world. I want all of your genius to get out in the world. And sometimes communications can be your friend or your enemy, depending on how skillful you are. So that's what we're here for. Just a quick note on the methodology that we'll be using today. In my almost 20 years of doing organizational development work and leadership development, there's lots of models, lots of tools, a million books you could read. What I'm bringing you today is a methodology that has resulted in the most breakthroughs in my career as a consultant, and it's called Nonviolent Communication, NVC. Now, it doesn't mean that we're violent. It doesn't mean we're going to be doing anything like that. It was inspired from Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr. It was developed by a psychologist named Marshall Rosenberg in the 1970s, and it's been used for years in the fields of psychology, education, mediation, etc. But it's just starting to make its headway in business applications. As a matter of fact, last year, Satya Nadella, who knows who that is? Shout it out. Yep, the CEO of Microsoft. Nonviolent Communication was one of the first books that he had his executive team read. And why? Because his vision for Microsoft was to be, at least from what I understand from reading Vanity Fair and Forbes, is that his vision was to have a more integrated Microsoft across all platforms, across all business units. And to have a more integrated organization, it requires listening and empathy, interdisciplinary work. So that ability to cut across the organizational silos and listen and appreciate the work of other people who do something completely different than you was integral to the success of Microsoft going forward. Similarly, I know someone personally who is teaching this at Google up in the Bay Area, and he's taught, I know, over 100 people at Google nonviolent communication. So what is it? It's basically a simple communications framework. As an engineer, I love this. It really breaks it down into very learnable steps. How to communicate in a way that practices and actually applies empathy in a way that brings people together instead of disconnects them. So you'll learn a very small slice of NVC today, nonviolent communication. There is so much to this field that honestly I could keep you here for 10 solid days straight and you would still be learning new material about nonviolent communication every day. So just know you have a small little bite today. You'll also hear it referred to and see it on the internet under these other subjects, compassionate communication and collaborative communication, in case you want to do any more research on this. Okay, so let's jump into our first skill. This is called the power of observation, and it's very simple. It's the ability to speak and even think in terms of undeniable facts. Facts instead of evaluations, interpretations, judgments, or assumptions. So let's try a small exercise right now. I'm going to make an expression on my face, and I want you to tell me what you observe. You ready? Okay, let's hear it. What are you observing?
Excitement.
Excitement. What else?
Surprise.
Surprise. What else?
Happiness.
Happiness. Okay. Excitement, surprise, happiness. Are those undeniable facts? Right. They're interpretations. You read my body language and you interpreted the emotions of surprise, excitement, happiness. Right? So let's try it again and describe to me your factual observation with undisputable facts. Something that no one can dispute. Something that the camera would actually capture and record. You ready? Here we go.
Your mouth is open.
Mouth is open, exactly. What else? Hands are up.
Eyes
Fingers
wide.
forward.
Yeah, eyes wide. Okay. So you know what I'm talking about. Do you see how automatically we jump to judgment? This is human nature. So a lot of mindfulness and communication, a lot of NVC, is about making what's unconscious conscious so that we can have more control of that and therefore be more influential as engineers, as leaders, as team members. So let's go deeper. There's another nuance to observation. It's not only observing what other people say or do, right? It's also self-observation. For example, if I say something offensive, you might observe in yourself emotions of anger, right? If you observe what you think are emotions on me, that's an interpretation. You don't know unless you're inside of me, right? But if you observe emotions in you, in NVC, that's considered factual because you know yourself. If you're angry, you know if you're angry. I may or may not know if you're angry, but you know. Or you might notice tension in your body. So that's another level of observation, is self-observation. Sensations, emotions rising up in you. We're going to practice that. So, you ready for our first game? I mean exercise? Okay. This is called the observation game. And the way it works is you'll be in groups of 2 teams. That's why we had you sit close together. Each group of 2 teams. Oh, you guys are one team? You're 2 teams.
Yes.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so each group of 2 teams is going to have a list of 8 cards. In these cards, they're all mixed up. Some of them are judgments. Some of them are evaluations. So your job is to separate them. So let's do a little practice round first. Okay, I'm going to say a statement, and I want you to shout out, is it a judgment or is it an observation? You ready? Okay. He's lazy. Judgment. He missed the deadline.
Observation.
Okay. He's not a team player. Let's see, what's he do? What else? They don't support us. That's a judgment. What would be an observation that says that they don't support us?
They cut our funding.
They cut our funding. Boom. What is that? Cut our funding. Judgment or observation?
Observation.
Observation. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about how this works? Okay, so that's how this exercise is going to go. And just to make it a little more orderly, we were hoping to have a room where we can adjust some chairs. So unfortunately, we're going to use the aisles as best we can. So please use your space efficiently. And what I suggest you do is maybe we'll have maybe a group here, and then the rest in the corners of the aisles. And to make this go quickly, I suggest you put it on the floor and spread them out. And then make 2 columns. One column are all of the judgments. She is unreliable. And then the next column, all of the observations, but making sure that they laterally correspond, the judgment and then the translated observation. Any questions about how that works? And then when you're done, holler and I'll come check your work. Okay, so let's have one group. Let's see, you guys are 2 groups already, right? So we'll give you one. And could we have another group? How about you guys? Come with this group here. And how about if we have these two groups, you guys in this corner and you guys in that corner? Okay. Okay, go ahead and stand. Okay, you two groups. Okay, we'll figure it out. So let's keep going until some of you.
These will be observations, these will be judgments.
Left is
Yeah, left is judgment, right is observation.
Does anyone have any questions about this exercise? Any nuances? Okay, so let's make this applicable. That was a game, but how do we make this applicable to your real life? Conflict resolution is something that I'm asked to teach from time to time, and it can be a very big subject. So with this exercise, I'm hoping that you can use this as a shortcut to avoid conflict or to navigate it more efficiently. Sometimes, instead of having all these really wild communication skills about when you did this, I'm feeling this, and I'd like to request that, sometimes all you need to do is just keep your cool and name the observation, free of judgment. That's the trick. Name the observation free of judgment. And sometimes that's enough to correct behavior. Here's a couple examples. Instead of saying, hey man, you're late, or you've got a punctuality issue, sometimes all you need to do is say to that person personally, hey, I noticed that you arrived 3 days late this week. Do you see the neutrality? Maybe there's a reason, maybe there's not. But it shows you that I'm observing, that I care. Sometimes all you need to do is just state that, and the observation will correct itself. Another example, instead of saying you talk too much, which is a judgment, right? You can say, I noticed you interrupting your colleagues several times during the meeting. Now, you don't want to say that at the meeting, because that could shame someone, right? But could you imagine hearing the care in that? If maybe people are rolling their eyes at you in a meeting because you're talking too much, but you don't know you are. One simple statement like that can express the care that can help you correct the behavior without feeling like you're wrong or being judged. So speaking without judgment is a really important skill. I have a good friend who is a preschool teacher, and she uses this all the time with kids that are having meltdowns. She'll just say, oh, it looks like you're really feeling angry right now, or I see that you're crying. You know, not as a robot, but to express it with care. Just that I see you, I'm with you, I'm observing you. And just that act of connection alone sometimes is enough to help people fall in line with more collaborative behaviors. Any questions about this? Yeah.
How do you follow up after you say something like that? Just saying that feels very passive.
Exactly.
Like I noticed you were late reading.
Stay with me for a few days, and we'll talk about all the ways you can follow up. There's a lot of ways. Here's what I like to do, is just to say it neutrally, and then to leave that awkward silence and leave it for them to say the next thing. It's what we call the pregnant pause. The power of silence. You state the observation, and just with care, hold the silent space. And it may be a long time, but then that person, in a way, it invites that person to be accountable, to be self-accountable. Instead of you calling them out, they now have an opportunity to step up and say, oh, I'm so sorry. Or, oh, you didn't know this, but I got a traffic ticket on the way to work today, or whatever it is. So there are many ways to respond, but for a 1-hour class, I would say go for the pregnant pause. Did that answer your question? I'll give you a bonus bonus tip. Ideally, when it comes to conflict resolution, and especially when it's behaviors that aren't serving you or the team, you want it to be a discussion. I coach a lot of coaches, managers and leaders who coach other people. And one of the mistakes I see a lot of senior coaches make is, I'm going to coach you into better performance. In other words, I'm going to tell you what you need to be doing. When you actually dig deep enough with an open mind, you'll often find that you might actually be part of the problem. For example, if you're late to the meeting, you might find out that maybe the meeting notices didn't get out in time, or that you have the wrong email address for someone. Or sometimes there's another side to the story, why someone's behaving a certain way that we don't know. So without going into hours more of communications training, what I would say is I would still open up with the silence to give that person a chance to speak for themselves. And I would invite a collaborative discussion where I want to hear from you what's going on for you, but I'm also open to hearing, well, maybe there's something that I might be contributing to the situation too. That often happens. So I like that question.
So can you follow it by, let's say the silence doesn't work.
Yeah.
Can
You mean there's
fo-
just infinite silence? you mean,
Infinite.
or? Infinite silence. Will you marry me? Infinite silence.
That's not infinite at that point. But can you say what's going on, or does that ruin the moment?
Thank you. I've used this technique for many years. I have yet to see
Having to say.
infinite silence. Awkward silence, yes. Nervous silence, yes. Wiggles, yes. And always with enough time that person speaks. A lot of times a person needs to sort their thoughts before they say something. A lot of times they're accusing themselves, even though you're not accusing them. So sometimes people need a moment to figure out what they're going to say. So in the theoretical case that there is the infinite silence, maybe the next thing that I would offer is a statement of care. You know, I noticed that you arrived 3 days late this week. I would say something that's important to me. It's like, you can say, I really value your contributions to the team, and I'm concerned about whether this is workable for you. Or I'm wondering if there's something going on. I would express care and curiosity. Again, the art here is not to express judgment. I think you've got a problem with time. But to go into curiosity, hey, is there something going on? Right. In the case of, I noticed you were interrupting your colleague several times during the meeting, you could use curiosity and say, I'm wondering if you are not feeling listened to, or I'm wondering if you feel like you need to be heard more, or something like that. I could also say, it's really important to me that I hear from everyone in the room, and you didn't give everyone a chance to do that. So you can also speak from what's important to you. So, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions about this? Okay. So I hope you'll try that technique, and you can practice it. I practice it on the road, the old road rage. Someone cuts you off, right? Instead of saying, oh, that jerk, right? To state the observation. It's like, that car swerved in front of me before I was ready, and I'm feeling angry. You can practice this in the grocery line. You can anytime you find yourself mildly annoyed, practice the translation, into translating things into factual observations. Okay, you ready for our next thing, or last chance for questions on observation? Okay.
Is there a communication style where this doesn't really work with a person?
Ooh, that's a great question. Is there a communication style where it doesn't work with the person? It's hard for me to answer in terms of communication styles, because I've seen times where people, as I've trained many people, they'll do everything right as according to the training, right? And still it fails. And what I've noticed, it doesn't have to do so much with the communication style, even though that's helpful. What it makes or breaks the success is usually the intent and the care behind the intent. So I might say everything right, but I'm still fuming inside and I think you're the biggest jerk in the world. You're going to feel that. Most people are intuitive. They're going to know that. If I think less of you, even though I'm speaking equal of you, people are smart. They'll know if I've got an attitude about you. So, so I would say intention is probably the most powerful thing. And that's why, again, mindfulness, making the unconscious conscious, is an important thing. You've got to check yourself before you wreck yourself. Any of you are students like the way I was? I was like a little Hermione Granger growing up, and the A student, always at the top of the class. I couldn't wait to raise my hand to every question. Any of you like that? You know, when I was younger, my motivation for doing that was I just wanted to dazzle everyone with how brilliant I was. So that wasn't a very noble motivation. It was egotistical, right? So part of what I do now, I still have that little piece of me. So what I do now is I check myself. It's like, well, why, you know, W-A-I-T, wait, why am I talking? Right? So checking my motivation, what is my intention before I say something in a meeting? Am I saying something to really to make a valuable contribution to you? Or am I saying it just because I think I'm really smart and I want to show you how smart I am? So that's one of many examples of how intention can make a difference. Did that answer your question? Yeah. Okay, let's apply this skill to one tool. And we're finishing about noon?
Yeah,
Is that
a
correct?
few minutes after.
Okay, great. So, as I mentioned, NVC, nonviolent communication, is the methodology that informs what we're doing today. And one of the things that makes NVC unique from all other communications frameworks that I've seen, and also emotional intelligence and all other good stuff, it has this concept called universal human needs. That's, oh, could we get someone to pass out the handout? This would be a good time for that. We're going to hand out, oh, here we are.
This one?
Yeah, thanks. There are certain qualities that I invite you to consider that every single human being can value. Qualities like appreciation, safety, respect, belonging, trust, integrity. These are things that any human being can value and agree on. Whether I'm young or old, whether I'm in the US or Africa, no matter what my viewpoint or opinion is, these are the things that bring people together. And so in NVC, the idea of using needs as a way to facilitate connection between people is a powerful tool. Why? Because conflict happens at the level of strategy. What is a strategy? In NVC terminology, strategy is simply the behaviors, the decisions, the choices that we make to meet our needs. So for example, if, let's say I have an itch on my arm, I have a need for comfort, right? So what's my strategy? I'm going to scratch that itch. Let's say I have a need for love and partnership in my life. What's my strategy for that?
Make friends.
Make friends, yeah. Last time I asked this, someone said Tinder. Let's say I have a need for security, in this case financial security. What might be a strategy for that? Get a job. Yeah. Sorry? Oh,
Roth IRA?
yes, and that is a strategy I've taken. Yes, Roth IRAs are good things, especially at your age. So, the interesting thing is that all conflict occurs at the level of strategy. Have you ever been at a meeting where, I used to be an engineer for 8 years, so everyone comes in with their proposal, their idea of how we should do a project, right? You go straight to your solution, to your strategy, and then you find out very quickly, oh, we have different ideas, and now it's a debate, and we're trying to sort ourselves out. That can be healthy conflict. It can be a lot more efficient if you first connect at the level of needs. And so this is what I want to bring to you today, the ability to first identify the common needs that bring us together. So let's say, for example, if it's a project, what's important here? Is it making sure that it's efficient this time? Maybe there were inefficiencies last time. Is it about customer service or satisfaction? Is it about consideration of certain new needs or things in our environment we didn't know before? So let me give you a quick example of how we get conflict at the level of strategy and connection at the level of needs. what if I told you that I have a need for respect in my life? Can you appreciate that? Let's say if you knew that I was a child who grew up, to be seen and not to be heard, my voice, I couldn't express my own opinion, or I couldn't express anger as a child, so I didn't feel respected. So now as an adult, respect is really important to me. Can you appreciate that? And maybe could you have even a little empathy or a little compassion for why respect is important to me? And then similarly, even though you may not have the same childhood that I had, can you also appreciate how respect might be important to you as well, in a way that connects us as human beings? Okay, so take a moment and savor that connection. Respect. That's something that we all share a value for. So let's go from sweet connection to disconnection. What if I tell you that my strategy for getting respect in the world is that I carry a gun? How connected do you feel to me now? Not very. Yeah, I have to be careful. I have recently spoke to a group where there were a lot of people in law enforcement. So guns can have different opinions. Now for safety, yes. For respect, no. They supported that. So can you see how me carrying a gun as a strategy for respect can actually make you feel disconnected from me? It might even elicit anger or fear, right? So now, this is a quick course on conflict resolution. What do we do now, right? How do we find a way forward together? It's to get back to the needs. If we can find an efficient way to connect back to my need for respect, this is where possibility opens up. This is why we call it collaborative communication, that there's a lot of collaborative possibilities on different strategies to meet my need. So let's say instead of carrying a gun to get respect, right, maybe there's other ways. Maybe I could just need to hear what you think of me to get respect. Or let's say I carry a gun to meet my need for safety. Maybe we can collaborate and you can arrange to make sure that after class, if I work late at night, you can escort me to my car so I feel safe. Right? So in a nutshell, this is how it works, is if we can identify the common need that we share, or the need that drives my behavior, especially behaviors you might not like, we can find other strategies for meeting that need. Okay, so I can keep you for days on this subject alone. There's a lot of skills that stem from this, but let's go into the one tool where you'll practice your skill. Any questions about this model though, before we go on? Okay. So the way this works is, I like kinesthetic exercises. You all have a handout that has a list of some, not all, of the universal needs. They're more or less the same things that you find on these cards. To be seen, heard, or valued, courage, etc. So without you having, since you don't have a deck of cards to take home, the exercise we're about to do, you can still do in your life using this handout alone. Or if you want to see me or Professor Zeev after class, there's some online sources where you can download these for free as well. So what you'll do is, I'll ask you to sit with your team. So this is the second exercise that you'll do only with your team. And I'll invite you to, since the seats are fixed, to stand in a circle with your team. So we might have, again, a couple teams here, some in the hall. But as much as you can, stand in a circle where you can all see each other and see the cards. And just like you did with the last exercise, I would take the cards and put them on the ground where you can see them all. And you get to pick one card, and here's where it takes a little courage. Pick one card of a quality that you would like to see more of on your team. A quality that you'd like to see more of on your team. This is what we mean by continuous improvement. It's not about blame, this is what you're doing wrong, or this is what I don't like. It's about a quality that I'd like to see more of. And this is where we get to use the skill that you just learned, the power of observation. Can you describe it in non-judgmental terms in actual something that would be said or done that you would like to see that supports that quality. So let me give you an example. Let's say, I'm trying to give you an example from my real life. I'm on a team right now where we're developing a future organization now since their founder died of a nonprofit. And I'm working on a team that will help it be financially sustainable. And so a quality that I would like to see more on my team would be what I call shared reality. Shared reality. And what that would look like is that we would have a mutual understanding of the dire financial situation of this organization and really pay attention to a financial plan to get it out of trouble. So I would like to see more shared reality. Where I feel like we're not in shared reality is, I think some of our group is so enamored by the future vision of the organization that they're forgetting that you can't build a castle if you only have enough money for a garage. So that's an example of something that I would like to see more of in my team. Does anyone have any questions about how this works? So the energy for this exercise is actually going to be different from the last exercise. This is really an attempt to have you guys support each other, help each other as team members, and this is important because very soon you're going to be professionals in the world. So this is hopefully not your first experience in one way to give constructive feedback. So I will be available if anyone wants some support on how to express yourself in a way with care. So just holler if you want me. Any other questions? Okay. So I'll hand out a deck of cards to each team. There's room for another team up front here if you want. Sit in a circle if you can, please.
My license.
You want to have to like put this all together?
Yeah, please take your seats and you can bring your cards forward. Okay, we have about 5 or 10 minutes left, so let's go ahead and debrief this. Could I hear maybe from 1 or 2 people who's willing, a quality that they share they would like to see more of and what that would look like? In the back.
Clarity.
More clarity. Okay, in your team. What would clarity look like?
Maybe communicating our roles more so that we know what we need to do.
Ah, clear roles. This is what you're going to do. This is what I'm going to do. Awesome. Thank you. Anyone else? One more. Oh, okay. I'm going to give it to someone who hasn't shared it. All right, in the back.
Kind of two things that tie together is contribution and self-expression.
Contribution and self-expression?
Correct. And so in the way that we interpreted it, it was more sharing about ourselves and what we like to do and who we are as human beings so that we can get to know each other better as a team and feel like we have connection with one another.
Great. So you'd like to see the different team members, learn more about what makes you tick, how you might uniquely contribute as individuals? Is that? Sweet, thank you. Okay, so this is a tool not just for your teams. This is a tool I hope you use in life. I challenge you, I invite you, to use this in your most intimate relationships. Use it with your kids if you have them, your significant other. See what happens. You can use this as a project debrief. In the Agile Open, we use this tool as a way to conduct Agile retrospectives. How do we learn from the last project, and how do we want to move forward even stronger? It's a great way to debrief projects. It's also, in my field of organizational development, it's a great way to look at opportunities to make your organization more effective. Think really big. What quality would we like to see more of in this whole company? So I want you to play with the boundaries of this exercise, whether it's the smallest little boundary, you and your significant other, to a larger boundary, you and your team, to a larger boundary, you and your entire organization, if that's something you want to influence. It's a very powerful tool for continuous improvement because it makes it easy for people to speak up. It makes it safe for people to speak up. And it guarantees that you speak constructively instead of speaking from a place of fault or blame or doing something wrong. So, any questions about how this works? Yeah.
So usually you said this would happen in a sprint retrospective, and sprints are usually 2 weeks long. It's kind of hard to let's all be more clarity now for 2 weeks. It's like
for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah. Is there how do you turn them into actionable steps?
That's a good question. Do you have any to say about that?
But I was also going to mention that they can do this at the end of each retrospective.
Yeah.
But do you think every 2 weeks is a good time frame? Is it too much, too little?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say in the beginning of a team where you're still forming and, for example, sorting out roles and who's going to be doing what, you could do it frequently, but every 2 weeks, usually what you'll find in retrospectives, as I understand it, is this type of an exercise can have a lot of value, but then you'll plateau at a certain point. And when you plateau, you don't need to do it. So, or you find other ways to assess yourselves.
Just from personal experience, I've had something like this in sprints where I work at, and usually it starts out good, but it doesn't plateau, it just goes down because there's no actionable steps.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, I'm glad you mentioned that. Actionable steps, yes. If it's just talking about what you'd like to see without any concrete actions, you're wasting everyone's time. So this is actually something we did do at the Agile Open. We had a lot more time for this exercise. We started with this, and then the next step is, what can we do about this now? So this is what it could look like. Now what? That's literally the question. Now what? And so I invite you to, yes, words are lovely, feelings are lovely, but without action, nothing will change. Is that your point?
Yeah.
That's a beautiful point. Thank you.
So could that almost be item 3 on the slide?
Yeah. Thank you. I think you're helping me up my game. Now what will be the next question? So since this was a short class, I really abbreviated this exercise, but I think it's important. We don't want to lose that. So, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Okay. So let's synthesize this. Take a moment and think to yourself. And I'm going to ask for a couple people to do this. The most valuable thing you learned today, but here's the really important question, is how will you apply it? Think of a situation in your life right now. Could be your personal life, could be your academic life, any aspect of your life, where you might want to use anything that you learned today. So I'll give you a few seconds to think about that. And while we're doing this, do we have any cards that still need to come back, by the way? Yeah, thanks. Thanks. Okay, so for our last exercise today, this is going to be well, I'll use your term sprint, a sprint beehive. You're going to stand up and you're going to turn, let's see, these two rows will face each other. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, that'll work. These two rows will face each other. These two, you guys might have to swing around a little bit. Face each other. You guys can face each other. And you guys can be one big mishmash all together. But I'd like you to share with at least 2 people the one thing you learned and how you'll apply it. I want you to hear different ideas from different people. It's kind of a beehive. You share your thing, and then you move on. You share your thing, and you move on. So 1, 2, 3, everyone up, and share these 2 items. I want you guys to get new ideas from listening to each other. So what do you learn from the applying? Not Thanks everyone for working with this room. Normally these beehive exercises you need a big floor. It makes it easier. So, okay, let's just hear from a couple people. What's something that you learned and where are you going to apply it? Yay, in the back.
To be more observant in the sense that you don't jump to conclusions right away. There's probably a lot more that you don't know. It could also be partly your fault, and you're just ignoring that person and focusing on the other person.
Sweet. Do you want to share where you might apply that, or is that confidential?
Personally, in team, this one and another one that I'm currently in, I have done that. I'm guilty. So just to work on that and then to really be open to all possibilities and not own up to that mistake.
Sweet. You are a model of world peace. Go forward. If we catch ourselves from judging even once, that's still a huge improvement. And being open, to possibilities and to our role. One more person. Let's hear. Pregnant pause.
I found it very valuable that we have to identify and talk about problems or conflicts in a neutral manner, so we don't step on each other's foot when talking about it, and it'll lead to the resolution easier.
Cool. So you see a value in being able to speak neutrally about something that's going along, and makes it easier for your group to actually work with that instead of going into blame or criticism, things like that. Cool. And where do you see yourself applying that?
Like some people may lag on deadlines, so you can point out that these deadlines were due last week instead of being like, you need to get your
Yeah, that's a last resort. Awesome. Okay, well, thank you. If you would like to learn more about that, you're welcome to drop me an email. I have some cards, or Professor Zeef can get you in touch with me. This will also be available, I think, on your UCI portal, I think. So if you'd like to learn more, let me know. I can hook you up with all kinds of resources, online, books, etc. So, all right, I wish you all the best in your capstone course and in the big life that awaits you. And thank you for having me.